teenage girl vanished in 2003. 15 years later, hikers found her necklace in a sealed tunnel. Friard. A silver locket shouldn't exist in a place that's been sealed for 15 years. But on a crisp March morning in 2018, when 4 hikers emerged from an abandoned railway tunnel in the Colorado mountains, one of them held exactly that, a delicate chain tangled with dried wildflowers, catching the sunlight like a ghost reaching out from the past. Before we dive into this mystery, please like, subscribe to the channel, and comment on what you think happened. Your opinion could be the key to understanding this story. The town of Ridgewood, Colorado, population 3,200, wakes up the same way it has for decades. The smell of fresh coffee drifts from the Main Street diner. Church bells echo against granite peaks. Children walk to school past the same storefronts their grandparents knew. It's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone's business, or at least they think they do. Sarah Mitchell has worked at the Ridgewood Public Library for 23 years. At 52, she moves through the stacks, with the quiet efficiency of someone who's built her entire life around routine and responsibility. Her days are predictable. Opening at 8, helping tourists find local history books, organizing community events, and going home to the colonial house she shares with her niece, Emma. But predictability has a price. Every morning, Sarah passes the bulletin board near the library entrance. Faded posters announce summer festivals, book sales, volunteer opportunities. And there, in the corner, weathered and yellow with age, a missing person flyer from October 2003. The face staring back is 17 years old, bright-eyed, with the same sharp cheekbones Sarah sees in the mirror. Her younger sister, Rebecca Mitchell, vanished without a trace 15 years ago. The town stopped searching after 2 years. They assumed Rebecca ran away, maybe got caught up with the wrong crowd, maybe worse. Sarah raised Rebecca's daughter, Emma, as her own. She built a life from the wreckage. She learned to function despite the constant weight of not knowing. That Tuesday morning starts like any other, until Margaret Chen from the Historical Society bursts through the library doors, slightly out of breath, clutching a plastic evidence bag. "Sarah," Margaret's voice trembles. "The hiking group found something in the old railway tunnel, the one near Prospect Ridge." Sarah's hands stop mid-motion, a book hovering above the returns cart. That tunnel's been sealed since 2003. Nobody can get in there. "That's what we thought too." Margaret places the bag on the circulation desk. Inside, the silver locket gleams. But someone did. The world tilts. Sarah recognizes it instantly. She should. She bought it for Rebecca's 16th birthday. She can still remember wrapping it, choosing the inscription carefully. "Forever yours, 2003. "Open it," Margaret whispers. With trembling fingers, Sarah clicks the locket open. Inside, exactly as she remembers, 2 tiny spaces for photographs. But the photos are gone, replaced with something else. A small, folded piece of paper, no bigger than a postage stamp. The handwriting is unmistakable. Rebecca's. What really happened in that tunnel? And more importantly, what else has been hiding in the dark for 15 years? Sarah's knees buckle. She grips the circulation desk, knuckles white, staring at those 6 words written in her sister's distinctive looping script. "I was here. I was alive. I made a choice." Present tense, past tense. A choice. Not an accident, not a crime, but a decision. Margaret pulls out a chair, guides Sarah into it. "The sheriff's already been notified. They're sending someone to investigate the tunnel today." "That tunnel was sealed," Sarah repeats, her voice hollow. "The railway company boarded it up in August 2003, 2 months before Rebecca disappeared." "I know." Margaret's face is pale. "That's what makes this so strange." By noon, Sheriff Tom Brennan stands in the library, his weathered face showing every one of his 60 years. He's known Sarah since she was a child, watched her raise Emma alone, attended school plays and graduations as a surrogate uncle. Now he shifts his weight uncomfortably, holding his hat in his hands. Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to really think about the answer. He pauses. Is there any chance Rebecca came back to Ridgewood after she disappeared? Any chance at all? The question lands like a physical blow. What? No. Why would you? Because that tunnel wasn't sealed properly. Brennan's jaw tightens. Someone's been using it. We found blankets inside, old camping supplies, and, he hesitates, other items. Recent items. The library suddenly feels too small, the air too thick. Sarah's mind races. How recent? Some of the supplies date back years. Others are newer. There's evidence someone accessed that space multiple times over a long period. Brennan leans forward. Sarah, did Rebecca have any reason to hide? Was she in some kind of trouble we didn't know about? Sarah's throat constricts. Memories flood back. Rebecca at 16, restless and dreamy, talking about traveling, seeing the world beyond Ridgewood's mountains. Rebecca arguing with their mother about college, about expectations, about the suffocating weight of a predetermined future. Rebecca dating Danny Morrison, the mechanic's son. Everyone assuming they'd marry right after graduation, like every generation before them. She wanted something different, Sarah whispers. But running away and hiding in a tunnel for years? That doesn't make sense. Unless she wasn't hiding, Margaret interjects quietly. Unless she was planning. The words hang in the air, heavy with implication. What if Rebecca's disappearance wasn't the tragedy they'd believed? What if it was something else entirely? Something calculated, deliberate, thought out? That evening, Sarah sits in Emma's room, watching her 32-year-old niece fold wedding invitations. Emma has her mother's dark hair, her mother's determined chin. In 2 months, she'll marry David Chen, Margaret's nephew. A simple ceremony, family and friends, nothing fancy. Emma's never been one for drama. Aunt Sarah? Emma looks up. You're staring. They found something today. The words tumble out before Sarah can stop them. Your mother's locket. In the old railway tunnel, Emma's hands still. For 15 years, she's lived with the ghost of a mother she barely remembers. She was 2 when Rebecca vanished, raised entirely by Sarah, calling her Mom by age 5 because it was simpler, easier, less painful than explaining. What does that mean? Emma's voice is carefully controlled. I don't know yet. Sarah reaches for her hand. But I'm going to find out. But what if the truth is worse than not knowing? What if Rebecca's choice meant choosing to leave her daughter behind? The tunnel entrance yawns like an open mouth against the mountain face. Yellow police tape flutters in the April wind, marking the perimeter of what's now officially a crime scene. Though what crime, exactly, no one can say. Sarah stands at the threshold with Sheriff Brennan and 2 state investigators, their flashlights cutting through the darkness ahead. The air smells of damp earth and rust, of secrets buried too long. She's insisted on being here, needs to see with her own eyes what Rebecca left behind. The seal was compromised from the inside, Detective Lisa Park explains, pointing to the wooden boards that should have blocked entry. Someone removed the nails, created a gap just wide enough to slip through, then repositioned the boards from inside. From the outside, it looked completely sealed. Clever, Sarah murmurs, though the word tastes bitter. They move deeper into the tunnel, their footsteps echoing off stone walls. The railway tracks are still visible, rusted rails disappearing into shadow. About 100 feet in, the investigators stop at a small alcove carved into the rock face. This is where Rebecca lived, or hid, or planned, or whatever she was doing in this underground tomb. A camping mat folded neatly. 3 wool blankets, moth-eaten but serviceable. A battery-powered lantern. Empty water bottles lined up against the wall with meticulous precision. Rebecca always was organized. And in the corner, wrapped in plastic to protect them from moisture, a stack of notebooks. Detective Park photographs everything before carefully removing the notebooks. There are 7 of them, spiral-bound. the kind high school students use. She opens the first one, and Sarah's breath catches at the sight of that familiar handwriting. 2004? Sarah's voice cracks. But she disappeared in October 2003. That's 6 months later. Keep reading, Park says gently, handing her the notebook. Sarah's hands tremble as she scans the entry. Rebecca's words paint a picture completely different from what they'd imagined. No kidnapping, no violence, no accident. Instead, methodical planning, lists of supplies needed, skills to learn, people to contact. Entries about the seasonal workers who came through Ridgewood each summer for the tourist season. Artists, craftspeople, musicians living in converted vans and buses, traveling from festival to festival. The entries continue, spanning months. Rebecca describes sneaking out at night, meeting with these travelers, learning skills that would allow her to live off the grid. Bookbinding, soap making, foraging, basic carpentry. She writes about stockpiling supplies in the tunnel, about the plan taking shape, about the life she's building in her mind while pretending to be the dutiful daughter, the good girlfriend, the girl everyone expected her to be. Sarah's vision blurs. She remembers that day, remembers thinking Rebecca had finally settled down, matured, accepted her place in the world. She'd been relieved. She'd been blind. The notebooks document 3 years of a double life. By day, Rebecca worked at the family store, planned a wedding she never intended to have, played the role expected of her. By night, she transformed the tunnel into a classroom, a workshop, a cocoon where her true self could grow. Detective Park's radio crackles. "We've got something else," a voice says. "Northwest corner of the tunnel. You need to see this." They follow the voice deeper into the darkness, where another investigator stands illuminating a section of wall. Someone, Rebecca, has carved words into the stone, letters 2 inches tall, deep enough to last decades. But if Rebecca was alive 3 years after her supposed disappearance, why did everyone think she died in 2003? And more importantly, where did she go next? Sarah spreads the journals across her dining room table like evidence at a trial. 7 notebooks, 3 years of secrets, and still so many questions. It's past midnight, but sleep is impossible. Emma sits across from her, face pale in the lamplight, processing the impossible truth that her mother didn't vanish. She planned an escape with the precision of a military operation. Day 189, Emma whispers, touching the first entry. That means she left in October 2003, just like everyone thought. But she stayed nearby. Her voice hardens. She was here, close enough to come back, close enough to see me. She was 2 years old, Em. You wouldn't have remembered. That's not the point. Emma's fist hits the table. She chose this, chose to hide while everyone mourned her, while you raised me alone, while Grandma cried herself sick. Tears streak her face. What kind of person does that? Sarah has no answer. She's been asking herself the same question for hours. The next morning, Sheriff Brennan arrives with more news. We've been going through old files, cross-referencing dates from the journals. Sarah, do you remember when Rebecca was reported missing? October 17th, 2003. She went to the homecoming dance with Danny and never came home. Right. And who reported her missing? Sarah's brow furrows. Danny did. The next morning, he said he dropped her off at home around 11. But when her car was still in the driveway at noon the next day and no one could find her, the realization hits. Oh my God. Danny Morrison knew. Brennan's voice is grim. Had to. According to these journals, Rebecca was still accessing the tunnel for months after she was supposedly missing. Someone had to cover for her, keep people from looking too closely. By afternoon, Danny Morrison sits in an interrogation room, his mechanic's coveralls stained with grease, his face showing the weight of 15 years carrying a secret. He's 48 now, never married despite being Ridgewood's most eligible bachelor, still running his father's garage on the edge of town. Sarah watches through the one-way glass as Detective Park leans across the table. Tell us about the night of October 17th, 2003. Danny's jaw works. For a long moment, he says nothing. Then, she asked me to lie for her. The story spills out. Rebecca had planned everything, told Danny weeks before. She needed a specific timeline, needed to disappear in a way that didn't immediately trigger a massive search, didn't bring federal authorities swarming, didn't result in roadblocks and Amber Alerts. She needed a window of time where people assumed she'd just gotten in a fight with her boyfriend, maybe spent the night at a friend's house, maybe needed to cool off. She made me promise. Danny's voice cracks. Made me swear I wouldn't tell anyone she was planning to leave. She said if I loved her, I'd give her this one thing, the gift of time. So you lied about dropping her off, Park says. I drove her to the tunnel, helped her carry supplies inside. Then I went home, waited 12 hours, and called her mother in a panic. Danny's hands shake. I thought she'd be gone a few weeks. Maybe a month. I didn't know she'd stay in that tunnel for years. Did you visit her there? Twice. Once in December 2003, because I was worried. She was fine, happy even. Said she was learning from the travelers. Said she'd leave in spring. He swallows hard. The second time was August 2005. I begged her to come back. She refused. Did she ever mention her daughter? Danny's face crumples. Every time. She'd ask about Emma, want to know if she was healthy, happy. She'd cry about it, but she never changed her mind. Sarah's fingernails dig into her palms. 15 years of believing her sister was dead, murdered, gone. 15 years of Danny Morrison attending vigils, helping with search parties, standing at memorials with that sad, noble expression. And he knew. He'd always known. But there's something else bothering Sarah. A detail that doesn't fit. She enters the interrogation room, ignoring Park's startled objection. Danny, Sarah's voice is steel. You said you visited her twice, December 2003 and August 2005. Yes? The journals go until March 2007. Who else knew? Who else was bringing her supplies for those last 2 years? Danny's eyes slide away. I don't know. You're lying. Sarah. My sister was in that tunnel for 3.5 years. Someone was helping her. Someone from those traveling communities she wrote about. Sarah leans forward. Give me names. Because if people helped Rebecca hide, if there's a network of people who've known where she is all this time, then maybe, just maybe, they still know where she is now. The name comes reluctantly. Crow. No last name, just Crow. Like a character from a novel. According to Danny, she was in her 50s back then, part of a loosely connected group of people who traveled the western states, following seasonal work, Renaissance fairs, farmers' markets, people who valued freedom over security, experiences over possessions, chosen family over blood ties. People who, apparently, helped young women disappear. Detective Park runs the name through databases, finds nothing. Crow doesn't exist in any official capacity. No driver's license, no social security records, no tax returns. She's a ghost by choice, living in the margins of society where paper trails don't matter. But the internet remembers everything. Sarah spends 3 days searching. Social media groups for sustainable living, forums about intentional communities, websites for traveling artisans. Finally, she finds a reference in a blog post from 2006 about a craft workshop in New Mexico. A photo shows a group of women bent over a table, learning to bind books by hand. In the corner, partially visible, a woman with silver hair and strong hands, her face turned away from the camera. The caption reads, "Grateful for Crow's teaching today. Her knowledge spans generations." The blog belongs to someone named Willow Hart, whose current posts show she's living in an intentional community outside Portland, Oregon. Sarah finds an email address, writes a message she revises 17 times before sending. The response comes within hours. Emma wants to come. Sarah refuses. This conversation, whatever it brings, is hers to have first. She drives 8 hours through mountains turning green with spring, finally pulling up to a property that looks like something from a different century. Small cabins arranged in a circle, a communal garden, chickens wandering freely, laundry hanging on lines strung between trees. Willow is younger than Sarah expected, maybe 40, with sun-weathered skin and calm eyes. She leads Sarah to a cabin where 3 other women wait, all around the same age as Willow. And in the center, in a rocking chair by the window, sits Crow. She's in her 70s now, hair completely white, hands gnarled with arthritis. But her gaze is sharp, assessing, taking Sarah's measure in seconds. "You're the sister," Crow says. Not a question. "You have her eyes." Sarah's carefully prepared speech dissolves. "Did you help her leave?" "I taught her skills." Skills she asked to learn. Skills that would let her live independently. Crow's voice is unapologetic. What she did with those skills was her choice. She had a child. A 2-year-old daughter. "I know. She talked about her constantly." Crow leans forward. "Do you want to know what else she talked about?" How she felt like she was suffocating. How her family had her entire life mapped out before she could walk. How every time she suggested something different, travel, art school, anything beyond this town, she was told she was being selfish, unrealistic, childish. The words hit like accusations. Sarah remembers those conversations, remembers saying exactly those things, believes she was helping Rebecca be practical. "We don't kidnap people," Willow says quietly. "We teach them skills and offer options. What they do next is up to them." "Options?" Sarah's voice rises. "You helped a teenager fake her death and abandon her child." "We helped a young woman escape a life that was killing her spirit," Crow corrects. "There's a difference." One of the other women introduces herself as Reed, speaks up. "Rebecca stayed with us for 2 years after she left the tunnel. Worked in our community garden, helped with the children's programs, learned sustainable farming. She was good at it. Happy. Stayed with you? Here? Different community. Arizona back then. We move sometimes, set up new places." Reed pulls out a photo album, flips it open. "She wanted you to have these. Been keeping them safe for when you came looking." The photographs steal Sarah's breath. Rebecca at 20, healthy and smiling, dirt under her fingernails, surrounded by other young people working a garden. Rebecca teaching a group of children how to bind books. Rebecca laughing, genuinely laughing in a way Sarah rarely saw during those last years in Ridgewood. And then, photographs from later years. Rebecca in her 30s, still traveling, still learning, still free. "She's alive," Sarah whispers. "Yes," Crow says simply. "Where?" "I don't know exactly. She moves between communities. Last I heard, she was somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, maybe British Columbia." Crow's expression softens slightly. "We have networks, ways of keeping in touch that don't involve addresses or phone numbers. I can send word that you're looking for her." "Does she know about the locket? About the tunnel being found?" "I suspect she expected it eventually. Why else leave it there?" Crow stands, moves to a cabinet, pulls out a wooden box. "She left this too. Asked me to keep it until someone came asking." Inside the box, more journals. Dozens of them. Continuing where the tunnel journals ended, documenting years of Rebecca's life after she left Ridgewood. And on top, a letter addressed to Sarah in Rebecca's handwriting, dated 6 months ago. But why now, after 15 years of silence? Why leave breadcrumbs now? Sarah doesn't open the letter in front of the women at Harmony Ridge. She thanks them, takes the box, and drives 3 hours to a rest stop before she can't stand it anymore. The highway traffic rumbles past as she sits in her car, hands shaking, staring at the envelope that might contain explanations or excuses, or more pain. The letter is 10 pages long, written in Rebecca's flowing script, dated September 2018, 6 months before the hikers found the locket. Sarah reads the letter 3 times, then sits staring at the dashboard as the sun sets and long-haul trucks shake her car with their passing. The letter answers some questions and raises 100 more. Rebecca sounds so certain, so justified in her choices. But does being happy justify the pain she caused? That night, Sarah returns to Ridgewood and does something she should have done weeks ago. She sits Emma down and hands her the letter. Emma reads in silence, her face unreadable. When she finishes, she carefully folds the pages and places them on the table. She didn't want to be my mother. Emma's voice is flat. No, it's fine. Actually, it's clarifying. Emma stands, moves to the window. I've spent my whole life wondering what I did wrong. What was so unlovable about me that my own mother disappeared? Turns out, it wasn't about me at all. I was just inconvenient. That's not what she said. She said she gave me to you like I was a gift she didn't want to keep. Emma's laugh is bitter. And you know what the worst part is? She's right. You were a better mother than she ever could have been. You wanted me. She didn't. End of story. But Sarah can see the hurt behind Emma's anger. The little girl who still wants her mother to want her back. And Sarah realizes that finding Rebecca might not bring the closure she hoped for. It might just open older wounds that never really healed. The phone rings. It's Detective Park. Sarah, we found something else. You need to come to the station. What kind of something? Evidence that Rebecca didn't just visit the tunnel once to leave the locket. She's been coming back regularly, and we think she was there as recently as last month. If Rebecca's been visiting Ridgewood, why hasn't she made contact? What else has she been watching from the shadows? The police station's conference room has transformed into a command center, walls covered with maps, timelines, photographs. Detective Park points to a series of images displayed on a laptop. Surveillance footage from the Ridgewood Community Center's parking lot camera. We pulled footage from the last 6 months, Park explains. We weren't specifically looking for anything, just trying to establish patterns of who uses that trail to the tunnel. And then we found this. She clicks play. The footage shows a woman in her early 50s, average height, dark hair tucked under a baseball cap, walking past the camera at dusk. The angle doesn't capture her face clearly, but something about her posture makes Sarah's breath catch. Watch the timestamp, Park says. February 14th, 2018. March 3rd, 2018. April Verne, 2018. 5 different dates over 3 months. Always at dusk. Always alone. The woman walks toward the trail that leads to the tunnel. Returns 2 hours later. That's her, Sarah whispers. That's Rebecca. We can't confirm from the footage alone, but the timing aligns. Each date corresponds to a significant event in Emma's life. Park pulls up another screen. Emma's social media feed. February 14th, Emma posted about getting engaged. March 3rd, she announced her wedding date. April 1st, she shared photos from her bridal shower. Sarah's stomach turns. She's been watching. More than watching. After we found this footage, we went back to the tunnel with luminol. Park's expression is grim. Someone's been maintaining that space. The blankets were replaced recently. Fresh batteries in the lantern. And we found this. She holds up another evidence bag. Inside, a collection of newspaper clippings, all from the Ridgewood Gazette. Articles about Emma, her college graduation, her promotion to office manager at the dental practice, her engagement announcement. Someone cut out each article, preserved it carefully. There's more. Park opens a folder, spreads out photographs. We found these hidden in a false bottom of the supply crate. The photos show Emma at various ages, 7, 10, 14, 17, 25, 30. Candid shots taken from a distance. Emma at school plays. Emma at the farmer's market. Emma at the library helping Sarah. Moments of Emma's life, documented and saved by someone who couldn't be there, but couldn't quite let go. She's been taking pictures of my daughter for 15 years, Sarah says slowly. Coming back to Ridgewood, hiding in that tunnel, watching our lives from the shadows. It appears so. A new emotion rises in Sarah's chest, something worse than anger. Betrayal. The letter made it sound like Rebecca had made a clean break, lived her own life, moved forward. But this is something else entirely. This is having it both ways, claiming freedom while maintaining surveillance, insisting on independence while remaining tethered to what she left behind. That evening, Sarah shows Emma the photographs. Her niece's face goes white, then red, emotions cycling too fast to track. "She's been here," Emma says flatly. "All this time, she's been coming back, watching me, taking pictures like some kind of stalker. And she never once knocked on our door." No," Emma's voice cracks. "I defended her in my head for years. Made up stories about why she left. Maybe she had amnesia. Maybe she was kidnapped. Maybe she died. And we just never found the body. Anything was better than thinking she just didn't want me. And now I find out she's been here? Close enough to photograph me, but too whatever. Selfish, scared, I don't even know. To actually talk to me?" Emma grabs her jacket. "I'm going to that tunnel. It's almost dark. Good. Maybe she'll be there. Maybe it's time we had a conversation." Sarah follows Emma's car through winding mountain roads, both vehicles climbing toward Prospect Ridge. The tunnel entrance is still marked with police tape, but Emma doesn't care, ducking under it and grabbing one of the flashlights the investigators left behind. Inside, their footsteps echo. Emma moves directly to the alcove where Rebecca kept her supplies, where she'd been returning for 15 years to this secret shrine of the life she abandoned. "Mom!" Emma's voice bounces off stone walls. "I know you come here. I know you've been watching. So come out and face me!" Silence. Just the drip of water somewhere deeper in the tunnel. The whisper of wind from the entrance. "Do you know what it was like?" Emma's talking to the darkness now, tears streaming. "Growing up knowing my mother chose to disappear. Having everyone in town look at me with pity. Sarah had to raise me alone because you decided being free was more important than being my mom." Sarah puts a hand on Emma's shoulder, but her niece shrugs it off. "And now I find out you've been watching me this whole time, collecting pictures like I'm some kind of project you can observe from a distance." Emma's voice breaks. "If you cared enough to watch, why didn't you care enough to stay?" The tunnel offers no answers, just Emma's ragged breathing and Sarah's helpless silence. They're walking back toward the entrance when Sarah notices something they missed before. Fresh flowers, placed in a crevice in the wall. Wildflowers, the same ones that were tangled with the locket chain, and next to them, a new addition, a small wrapped package. Emma opens it with shaking hands. Inside, a handmade journal, bound with the skill Rebecca learned from Crow. The leather soft and carefully tooled with a pattern of aspen leaves, and tucked inside the front cover, a note. But sorry doesn't raise a child. Sorry doesn't erase 15 years. And sorry doesn't explain why someone who claims to have moved on keeps returning to the place they said they'd left behind. News spreads through Ridgewood like wildfire. By morning, everyone knows. Rebecca Mitchell is alive, has been alive, has been coming back to town without telling anyone. The reaction splits the community down the middle. At the coffee shop, Sarah overhears heated whispers. "Always knew that girl was strange." Can you imagine abandoning your own child? Sarah's a saint for raising Emma alone. But there are other voices too, quieter, more conflicted. "I always wondered if she ran away. She was so young when she had Emma. This town can be suffocating. Maybe she just needed out." The Mitchell family store, which Sarah's mother still runs at 83, becomes ground zero. Dorothy Mitchell sits in her usual chair behind the register, face carved from stone, refusing to comment on the daughter she lost and found and lost again in the span of a month. When Sarah visits, she finds her mother sorting through old photo albums, studying pictures of Rebecca at different ages, as if looking for clues she missed the first time. "I did everything right," Dorothy says without preamble. I raised you girls with good values, strong morals, respect for family. I gave Rebecca every opportunity, and she threw it away. Sarah sinks into a chair. Mom, did you ever ask Rebecca what she wanted? Of course I did. She wanted impossible things. She wanted to run around like a vagabond. No responsibilities, no family ties. That's not how life works. Maybe it's not how our life works, but there are other ways to live. Dorothy's gaze snaps to her. Are you defending her? I'm trying to understand her. There's nothing to understand. She was selfish, pure and simple. She had a child, and she abandoned that child. Everything else is just excuses. Dorothy closes the photo album with a sharp snap. And now she has the audacity to come back, to lurk around like a ghost. She should have the decency to show her face, at least. But that's exactly what Sarah fears, that Rebecca will show her face, and whatever fragile understanding they've built will shatter under the weight of real confrontation. Detective Park calls that afternoon with more news. We've been tracking security footage from businesses around town, cross-referencing dates. Sarah, Rebecca's been doing more than visiting the tunnel. She's been in town, walking around, going places. Park pulls up footage from the library's exterior camera. There, clear as day, is Rebecca standing across the street at 2 a.m., staring at the building where Sarah works. Another clip shows her outside the elementary school Emma attended, watching children play during recess. Another at the cemetery, standing at their father's grave. She's been everywhere, Sarah breathes. All these years, she's been coming back, and no one noticed. Actually, Park hesitates, that's not quite true. We've been interviewing people, asking if anyone's seen a woman matching Rebecca's description. And Sarah, several people have. They just didn't report it because she trails off. Because why? Because they thought she had the right to privacy. There's a whole group of people in this town who've seen Rebecca over the years and kept quiet about it. They believed she'd earned her freedom, that dragging her back would be cruel. The betrayal cuts deep. Sarah's neighbors, people she's known her whole life, kept this secret. They watched her raise Emma alone, watched her grieve, watched her struggle, and said nothing. That evening, Sarah does something she's never done before. She posts on social media, addressing the town directly. The responses flood in. A waitress at the diner saw Rebecca 3 years ago, sitting in a corner booth at dawn. A gas station attendant remembers selling her fuel twice. A teacher at the high school spotted her at a school play in 2012. A clerk at the hardware store sold her camping supplies in 2015. And then, a message from someone unexpected. David Chen, Emma's fiancé. They meet at the park, David's usual easy smile replaced with tension. I've seen her too, he admits. Rebecca, I didn't realize it at the time, but after seeing her photo in the news, I recognized her. When? Last year at the Harvest Festival. I was helping my aunt set up, and I saw a woman watching Emma from across the crowd. She looked so sad, so full of longing. I almost went over to ask if she was okay, but she disappeared into the crowd. David runs his hand through his hair. And then, 6 months ago, I saw her again. Outside the jewelry store where I bought Emma's engagement ring. She was standing across the street, just watching the shop. When I came out, she was gone. Sarah's mind reels. Why didn't you say anything? I didn't know who she was. I just thought it was a coincidence. The same woman, in the same town. But now, knowing it was Rebecca, he shakes his head. Sarah, she's been watching Emma's whole life unfold. She's seen everything, been there for nothing. That night, Sarah returns to the tunnel alone, armed with a flashlight and a thermos of coffee. She settles into the alcove where Rebecca spent 3 years of her life, surrounded by the remnants of her sister's rebellion. And she waits. Hours pass. The tunnel grows cold. Sarah's about to give up when she hears footsteps. Soft, hesitant, approaching from the entrance. A figure emerges from the shadows, and for the first time in 15 years, Sarah Mitchell looks into the face of her sister. Rebecca looks different. Older, obviously, but also changed in ways that go beyond age. Her hair is shorter, streaked with gray she makes no effort to hide. Her face is weathered, tanned from years of outdoor work. She wears simple clothes, sturdy boots, carries herself with a confidence Sarah doesn't remember from before. They stare at each other in the flashlight's beam, sisters separated by 15 years and 5 feet of tunnel space that might as well be an ocean. "I knew you'd figure it out eventually," Rebecca says quietly. Her voice is different too, slower, more measured, like someone who's learned to think before speaking. "You always were good at puzzles." Sarah's carefully prepared speech evaporates. "You've been watching us." "Yes." "For 15 years." "Yes." "Why?" The word tears out of Sarah. "If you wanted to be part of our lives, you could have just come back?" Rebecca's laugh is bitter. "And say what? Sorry I faked my death and abandoned my child, but can we still do family dinners?" "It doesn't work that way, Sarah." "So you just watched from the shadows like some kind of ghost?" "I watched because I needed to know she was okay. That you were both okay." Rebecca moves closer, and Sarah can see her eyes are red-rimmed, exhausted. "I watched because it was the only way I could be close to her without destroying the life you'd built." "You destroyed it anyway." "Just slower." Rebecca flinches. I know it was selfish. But Sarah, if I'd stayed, I would have destroyed it faster and worse. I was drowning. Every day in this town felt like suffocating. I'd look at Emma and feel this terrible mix of love and resentment, and I hated myself for it. She deserved better than a mother who had to force herself to stay. "So you left her with me without asking." "I left her with someone who wanted her. You'd been talking about having kids for years, but Mark didn't want them. You and Mark divorced 6 months after I left. Don't think I don't know that was partly because suddenly you had a child to raise." Rebecca's voice cracks. "I gave you the thing you wanted most. Why can't that be enough?" "Because it's not just about what I wanted. It's about Emma, who grew up believing her mother died, who had to process trauma that was completely manufactured." Sarah steps forward. "Do you know what she said when she read your letter? She said at least now she knows she wasn't unlovable. She was just inconvenient." The words hit Rebecca like a physical blow. She staggers back, hits the tunnel wall, slides down to sit on the cold stone. "I never meant—" "What did you mean then?" "Explain it to me, because I've spent weeks trying to understand, and I still can't see how this was anything other than you choosing the easy way out." "Easy?" Rebecca's head snaps up. "You think this was easy? You think leaving my child, watching her grow up from a distance, never getting to hold her or talk to her or tell her I love her, you think that was the easy choice? Easier than staying, easier than doing the hard work of being a parent." "I would have been a terrible mother." Rebecca's shout echoes through the tunnel. "I would have been bitter, resentful, trapped. I would have made her feel like a burden every single day." "Is that what you wanted? For me to stay and slowly poison her with my unhappiness?" "I wanted you to try. I wanted you to grow up and put someone else first for once in your life." They're both crying now. 15 years of hurt pouring out in this dark tunnel where Rebecca's escape began. "I did put her first," Rebecca says quietly. "I gave her to you. I gave her the mother she deserved. Just because it's not the choice you would have made doesn't mean it was wrong." Sarah sinks down opposite her sister, exhausted. "She wants to meet you." "I know. I've been trying to work up the courage." "She's angry. Really angry. She should be. She's also hurt and confused and getting married in 6 weeks." Sarah looks at her sister, really, looks at her, and sees someone who's been carrying her own weight of pain all these years. The wedding's small, just family and friends. "You should come." Rebecca's eyes widen. "Sarah, I'm not saying it'll fix anything. I'm not even saying Emma will want to talk to you. but she deserves the chance to decide for herself whether you get to be part of her life. Sarah takes a shaky breath. And I deserve to not keep your secrets anymore. If you're going to be a ghost, be one everyone can see. What if she hates me? She probably will. At least at first. Sarah stands, offers her hand to pull Rebecca up. But hate is better than nothing. Hate means you matter enough to feel something about. Rebecca takes her hand, and for a moment, they're just two sisters in a tunnel, holding on to each other like they used to when they were children, before life got complicated, before choices created chasms. I'm staying at a motel outside town, Rebecca says. I'll be here for a few weeks. If Emma wants to see me, she knows where to find me. That's not good enough. You don't get to make her come to you. Sarah's voice hardens. You left. You come back. All the way back, not just to this tunnel. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. at the house. Show up or don't. But this is your only chance. After Rebecca leaves, Sarah sits alone in the tunnel, thinking about the choices we make and the people we become because of them. She pulls out her phone and texts Emma. The response comes immediately. But some stories don't have endings, just stopping points where people decide they're tired of carrying the weight. Emma insists that David be there. Sarah insists that their mother Dorothy come too. If they're doing this, they're doing it as a family. All of them, together, facing the woman who left a hole in the center of their lives. At 2:45 p.m., the house is silent. Emma sits on the couch, back rigid, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles are white. David stands beside her, a protective presence. Dorothy is in the armchair, face unreadable, staring at the door like she can will Rebecca to appear or disappear with equal intensity. Sarah moves between the kitchen and living room, putting out coffee no one will drink, cookies no one will eat, performing the rituals of hospitality because she doesn't know what else to do. At 3:02, a knock on the door. Sarah opens it to find Rebecca on the porch, looking smaller somehow than she did in the tunnel. She's changed clothes, wearing a simple dress, her hair pulled back, hands trembling slightly. She looks like someone going to a funeral. Maybe she is. Come in, Sarah says. Rebecca steps inside, and the air in the room changes. Dorothy stands abruptly, one hand pressed to her chest. Emma doesn't move, doesn't even blink, just stares at this stranger who wears her mother's face. Hello, Mom, Rebecca says softly. Dorothy's mouth works, but no sound comes out. Finally, you look well. So do you. The formality is absurd. Two women who once knew each other better than anyone, now performing like strangers at a business meeting. Sarah wants to shake them both. Rebecca turns to Emma. Hi, Emma? Don't. Emma's voice is ice. Don't hi Emma me like we're meeting for coffee. Like you didn't spend 15 years letting me think you were dead. I know. Do you? Do you really know what that was like? I was 2 years old. I don't have a single real memory of you. Everything I know about you is from photos and stories people told me. And now I find out you've been here, watching me grow up, taking pictures like I'm some nature documentary. Emma stands. Did you ever think about how that would feel? Finding out your mother has been stalking you for 15 years? Every day, Rebecca says. I thought about it every single day. But you did it anyway. Yes. Why? Emma's voice breaks. If you cared enough to watch, why didn't you care enough to stay? Rebecca looks at Dorothy, then Sarah, then back to Emma. Because I was 19 years old and terrified. Because I got pregnant by accident, and everyone was so happy about it, so sure it was what I wanted, that I couldn't tell them I was drowning. Because by the time you were born, I was in so deep I couldn't see a way out that didn't hurt everyone. So you chose the way that hurt me most. I chose the way that hurt you least. Rebecca takes a careful step forward. Emma, if I'd stayed, I would have been miserable. I would have resented you. I would have been present, but absent. There, but not really there. And you would have grown up feeling that every day. I would have been like, she looks at Dorothy, like my mother, dutiful, proper, unhappy. And I would have made you unhappy too. Dorothy makes a small sound, almost like a gasp. So instead you left me to wonder what I did wrong, Emma says. You did nothing wrong. You were perfect. You are perfect. Rebecca's crying now, tears streaming freely. But perfection doesn't fix broken people. Sarah wasn't broken. Sarah was ready to be a mother. Sarah wanted you in a way I couldn't manage to want anything except escape. Emma looks at Sarah. Did you know before she left? No, Sarah says honestly. I had no idea. Did you want kids? Sarah hesitates, then nods. Yes, very much. So I was convenient for you. Emma's voice is flat again. You got what you wanted. Mom got to escape. Everyone wins, except the kid who didn't get a choice. That's not fair, David says quietly. None of this is fair. Emma whirls on him. You don't get to defend her. You don't get to make this okay. She abandoned me. She chose herself over me. And now she shows up expecting what? Forgiveness? Understanding? For me to thank her for knowing she'd be a bad mother, so at least she didn't stick around to prove it? The room falls silent. Rebecca stands frozen, tears dripping onto her dress. Dorothy speaks for the first time since the initial greeting. I made you feel trapped. Rebecca's head turns. Mom, you said you would have been like me. Dutiful, proper, unhappy. Dorothy's voice shakes. Is that how you saw me? Unhappy? Weren't you? The question hangs in the air. Dorothy sits back down slowly, her 83 years suddenly visible in every movement. I loved your father, Dorothy says finally, and I loved you girls. But yes, I wondered sometimes what life would have been like if I'd made different choices, if I'd gone to college like I wanted, instead of marrying at 20. If I'd pursued my teaching certification instead of working at the store, She stops. I did my duty. That's what my mother taught me. You do your duty, and you don't complain, and you don't burden others with your regrets. I didn't want to be you, Rebecca whispers. I loved you, but I couldn't be you. So you decided to be nothing instead? Dorothy's voice hardens. You chose to be a ghost, a question mark, a wound that never healed. That was better? I chose to be myself. Rebecca's voice rises. For once in my life, I chose what I wanted instead of what everyone expected. And yes, it hurt people. Yes, it was selfish. But at least I'm alive, Mom. At least I'm actually living instead of just existing in the shape someone else carved out for me. The words land like bombs. Emma stares at Rebecca with something that might be understanding starting to crack through the anger. Dorothy looks stricken. Sarah finds herself thinking about her own life, the one she built around responsibility, around taking care of everyone else, around never quite examining what she wanted for herself. I'm getting married in 6 weeks, Emma says abruptly. To David. It's going to be small, just close family and friends. You're not invited. Rebecca nods, swallowing hard. I understand. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that I'm making a choice. I'm choosing to build a life with someone who chose me back. I'm choosing to start a family with someone who wants to be there. Emma's voice steadies. And I'm choosing to do that without you in it, because I don't trust you not to disappear again. That's fair. But, Emma takes a breath. Sarah says you've been living in intentional communities, learning traditional crafts. She says you bind books by hand. Rebecca looks up, cautious. Yes, I want you to make me something. A guest book for the wedding. I want it bound properly, with real leather, with my name and David's name and the date. I want it to be beautiful. Emma's eyes are hard, challenging. And I want you to put work into it, real work, time and effort and skill. I want you to make me something that proves you can commit to something and see it through. Can you do that? Yes, Rebecca says immediately. Yes, I can do that. Then do it. You have 5 weeks. Drop it off at the library addressed to Sarah. Emma heads for the door, David following. And after the wedding, maybe, we can try to have a conversation where I don't want to scream at you. After they leave, the 3 women sit in silence. Finally, Rebecca speaks. I should go. Stay, Sarah says. Please. We need to talk about what happens next. Because Emma might not be ready to forgive, but Sarah's starting to understand something important. Forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation, and reconciliation isn't the same as going back to how things were. Sometimes the only way forward is to build something entirely new. Over the next 2 weeks, Rebecca stays in Ridgewood, not hiding this time, but present. She rents a room at the Bed and Breakfast on Pine Street, walks through town in daylight, nods to people who stare with recognition and shock. The gossip reaches fever pitch. Sarah watches her sister move through the town that once defined her and sees how Rebecca has become someone else entirely. She shops at the co-op, buying vegetables from farmers she once knew as a teenager. She sits in the coffee shop, reading books about sustainable agriculture and traditional crafts. She visits the library, runs her fingers along the spines of books in the section where she used to sit as a girl, dreaming of anywhere but here. And in her rented room, she works on Emma's wedding guest book with a devotion that borders on obsessive. Sarah visits one afternoon, finds Rebecca surrounded by materials, leather, thread, paper, tools. The book is taking shape, a beautiful thing with intricate tooling on the cover, pages sewn in signatures with perfect stitching. It's gorgeous, Sarah says, touching the leather gently. It has to be perfect. Rebecca doesn't look up from her work. This is the only thing she's asked of me. I can't mess it up. Beck, even if it's perfect, it might not change how she feels. I know, but it's not about changing how she feels. It's about showing her I can do what I promise, that I can finish something I start. Rebecca finally looks up, and her eyes are haunted. I've spent 15 years running from commitment. Maybe it's time I prove to myself I can actually stay for something. The conversation drifts to deeper waters. Rebecca talks about her life in the communities, the gardens she's helped plant, the children she's taught, the festivals and seasons and rhythms so different from conventional life. She talks about the people she's met, some damaged, some searching, all trying to build lives that feel authentic rather than prescribed. It sounds lonely, Sarah says. Sometimes it is. We move around a lot. Relationships are fluid, nothing's permanent. Rebecca pauses. But it's a choice. That's the difference. The loneliness is something I chose rather than something that happened to me. Is that really better? Rebecca considers. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I've just been running for so long I don't know how to stop. Dorothy visits too, though her visits are shorter, more uncomfortable. She and Rebecca circle each other like boxers who've forgotten why they're fighting, but can't quite call a truce. One afternoon, Dorothy brings old photo albums. They sit on the bed and Breakfast's porch, paging through images of Rebecca's childhood. Birthday parties, school plays, family vacations. You were such a happy child, Dorothy says, touching a photo of 6-year-old Rebecca covered in finger paint. When did that change? I don't think it changed. I think the happiness just got complicated by expectations. Rebecca turns a page, finds a photo from her 16th birthday, the day Sarah gave her the locket. You see this smile? I was good at smiling. I thought if I smiled enough, eventually I'd mean it. Did you ever mean it? Rebecca considers. Sometimes. When I was with Sarah, usually. She never seemed to need me to be anything other than what I was. She looks at her mother. You needed me to be what you were. I couldn't do it. Dorothy's face works through emotions. Hurt, anger, understanding, regret. I wanted to give you security, a clear path. I thought I was helping. I know you did. And maybe for some people, that would have been helping. But, Mom, I needed you to ask what I wanted instead of telling me what I should want. And if I had asked, I would have told you I wanted to leave Ridgewood. I would have told you I was terrified of ending up stuck here, married to Danny Morrison, working at the family store, living the exact same life every generation before me lived. I would have told you I was pregnant and scared and completely unprepared to be a mother. Rebecca's voice breaks. And maybe if I'd been able to say those things out loud, we could have figured out a different solution. One that didn't require me to disappear. The conversation doesn't heal everything. 15 years of silence and hurt can't be erased in an afternoon. But it's a start, a small crack in the wall they've built between them. Meanwhile, Detective Park continues investigating, piecing together Rebecca's movements over the years. She discovers a network of people who've helped Rebecca maintain her hidden life. Not just the traveling communities, but people in Ridgewood, too. Sarah's shocked to learn about the hardware store clerk who sold Rebecca supplies without reporting it. The teacher who saw Rebecca at the school play and said nothing. The gas station attendant who recognized her but kept quiet. A dozen people who made the choice to protect Rebecca's secret, believing she had the right to her own life, even if it meant lying by omission to those she'd left behind. Did it ever occur to any of you, Sarah asks the hardware store clerk during one of Park's interviews, that maybe we deserved to know she was alive? Of course it did, the clerk says. But she asked us not to tell, and it seemed like you'd made peace with her being gone. What good would it do to drag her back into a life she was miserable in? That wasn't your decision to make. Maybe not. But we all have to make choices about whose side we're on. I chose hers. The revelation that so many people knew, that they chose Rebecca over her family, over Emma, over the truth, it colors everything. Sarah can't walk through town without wondering who else kept this secret, who else looked her in the eye and lied. At dinner one night, Sarah confronts Rebecca about it. You had people protecting you. All these years, you had a support network here, in Ridgewood, keeping your secrets. I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to Emma. She's the one who grew up in this town where half the people knew her mother was alive and said nothing. Sarah's anger, buried for weeks, finally surfaces. Do you know how that makes her feel? Finding out the whole town conspired to keep the truth from her? They didn't conspire. They made a choice. They chose you. They chose your right to run away over her, right to know her mother was alive. Sarah's voice rises. And you let them. You asked them to lie for you. I never asked. Didn't you? Every time you came back, every time you let someone see you and didn't tell them to contact us, you were asking them to keep your secret. You made everyone complicit in your disappearance. The truth of it settles over Rebecca like a weight. You're right, I did, and I can't take that back. No, you can't. But maybe, Sarah thinks, watching her sister's face crumple with guilt. That's the point. Some things can't be taken back, can't be fixed, can only be carried forward into whatever comes next. 3 weeks before Emma's wedding, Sarah receives a call from Crow. The older woman's voice on the phone is weaker than Sarah remembers, raspy with age or illness. There's something you need to know, Crow says without preamble. About Rebecca, about why she left when she did. They meet at a diner halfway between Ridgewood and Harmony Ridge. Crow looks frailer than she did weeks ago, moves more slowly. Sarah suspects this journey took effort the woman can barely spare. I'm dying, Crow says once they're seated, ordering nothing, waving away the waitress. Liver cancer. 6 months, maybe less. Rebecca doesn't know yet. I haven't told her. But before I go, there are some truths that need telling. Sarah's stomach tightens. What truths? Rebecca didn't find me by accident. I was sent to find her. Crow pulls out an old photograph, slides it across the table. It shows a much younger Crow, maybe 30, standing next to another woman around the same age. The second woman has Dorothy's eyes, Dorothy's sharp cheekbones. Your mother and I were best friends. We met in college, before Dorothy got married and moved to Ridgewood. The world tilts. My mother went to college? For 2 years, yes. She wanted to be a teacher. She was brilliant, passionate, full of plans. Crow's expression softens with memory. And then she met your father, got pregnant with you, and her parents insisted she marry immediately, drop out, do her duty. She chose family, but she never stopped wondering what her life could have been. Sarah stares at the photograph, trying to reconcile this young woman full of possibilities with the mother she knows. Practical, rigid, devoted to duty above all else. Dorothy wrote to me over the years, Crow continues. Not often, but enough. She'd tell me about you girls, about the store, about Ridgewood. And one day she wrote about Rebecca, how similar she was to Dorothy at that age, how she was chafing against expectations, how Dorothy was terrified Rebecca would make the same mistakes Dorothy did. Mistakes? That's what Dorothy called them. Giving up college, giving up teaching, giving up the life she'd wanted. Crow's voice is gentle but firm. Dorothy asked me to watch for Rebecca. If she showed up at any festivals or markets, if she came looking for a way out, I was supposed to help her. Dorothy wanted to give Rebecca the choice she never had. Sarah's mind reels. My mother, conservative, traditional, duty before all, Dorothy, sent you to help Rebecca run away? Dorothy wanted Rebecca to be free in a way she never was. She just couldn't be the one to give permission, couldn't be seen supporting it, couldn't admit out loud that maybe the life she'd built wasn't the only good life. Crow pulls out an envelope. She wrote this when Rebecca first left. Asked me to keep it until the right time. I think that time is now. Inside the envelope, a letter in Dorothy's handwriting, dated October 2003. Sarah reads the letter 3 times, each word rewriting her understanding of her mother, her sister, the last 15 years. Does Rebecca know? She asks finally. No. Dorothy made me promise not to tell her. She wanted Rebecca to make the choice freely, without feeling obligated by guilt or gratitude. Crow takes the letter back. But you need to know, and you need to decide whether to tell Rebecca before Emma's wedding. Sarah drives back to Ridgewood in a daze. She goes directly to her mother's house, finds Dorothy in the garden, pulling weeds with the determined focus she brings to everything. You knew, Sarah says without greeting. You helped her leave? Dorothy's hands still. She doesn't turn around. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because you would have tried to stop it. You would have been right to try. Dorothy sits back on her heels. Sarah, you wanted to be a mother so badly. I saw how you looked at Emma, how you lit up when Rebecca left her with you for even a few hours. I knew that if Rebecca left, you'd step in. You'd have what you wanted. It seemed, she pauses, fair somehow. Rebecca would be free. Emma would have a mother who genuinely wanted her, and you would have the child you'd been longing for. So you played God with all our lives. Yes. Dorothy finally turns, and Sarah sees tears on her mother's weathered face. I played God. I made choices for everyone because I thought I knew best. Just like my mother did for me, and her mother before her. We Mitchell women are very good at deciding what's best for everyone else. The weight of generations settles over them. Choices made and unmade. Paths taken and abandoned. Women trying to give their daughters what they themselves were denied. Rebecca has to know, Sarah says. Before the wedding, she deserves to know that leaving was partly your gift to her. Will it change anything? Sarah thinks about Emma, about the wedding guest book being crafted with such care, about the tentative possibility of reconciliation growing between a mother who left and a daughter who stayed. Maybe not. But lies by omission are still lies, Mom. We've had enough secrets. That night, Sarah tells Rebecca everything. The letter from Dorothy, Crow's revelation, the truth that Rebecca's escape was partly orchestrated by the mother she thought she was disappointing. Rebecca doesn't cry. She sits very still, processing, rearranging her understanding of the last 15 years. She wanted me to be free, Rebecca finally says. Yes. She couldn't say it out loud, but she wanted it anyway. Yes. All this time, I thought I was rebelling against her, but I was actually fulfilling her wish. Rebecca looks up. Does that make it better or worse? I don't know, Sarah admits. Does it matter? I don't know either. But the next morning, Rebecca goes to Dorothy's house. What they say to each other, neither woman shares. They're together for 3 hours. When Rebecca leaves, both their faces are red from crying, but something's shifted. Not healed, maybe, but shifted. Sometimes the stories we tell ourselves about our choices are the only way we can live with them. And sometimes learning the real story changes everything. Emma's wedding is 1 week away. The house is chaos. Last-minute arrangements, relatives arriving from out of town, dress fittings and menu tastings, and all the elaborate machinery of a wedding that's supposed to be small and simple, but has somehow become complicated anyway. Rebecca delivers the guest book on a Tuesday morning, leaving it at the library with Sarah as requested. Sarah unwraps it carefully, gasps at the beauty of what her sister has created. The leather is soft, dyed a deep burgundy that will age gracefully. The tooling shows aspen trees, their leaves captured in intricate detail, winding around the edges of the cover. Emma and David's names are embossed on the front in elegant script, the date below. Inside, pages of handmade paper, thick and textured, each one perfect. The binding is flawless, stitching so tight, and even it looks machine-made but carries the soul of something crafted by hand. It's the most beautiful book Sarah has ever seen. It's also a love letter, an apology, and a promise, all bound together. Sarah texts Emma, "The book is ready. Come see it." Emma arrives at the library during her lunch break, David with her. Sarah places the book on a table, steps back, lets Emma approach it in her own time. Emma's hands tremble as she opens it. She pages through slowly, examining each detail, running her fingers over the stitching, the paper, the careful construction. Tears stream down her face, though her expression doesn't change. "It's perfect," she whispers finally. "Your mother made it," Sarah says. "Every part of it. She learned these skills over years, and she put everything she knew into this book." "I know." Emma closes the book gently, holds it against her chest. "I can tell. You can see the time in it, the care. This isn't something you rush. This took dedication." David puts his arm around her. "What do you want to do?" Emma is silent for a long moment. Then, "I want her at the wedding." Sarah's eyebrows rise. "Are you sure?" "No, but I want her there anyway. I want her to see me get married. I want her to witness me making a commitment and keeping it." Emma's voice is steady now, resolved. "And I want to give her a chance, just one chance, to show me she can stay for something important." Sarah calls Rebecca that afternoon. "Emma wants you at the wedding. Saturday, 2 p.m., Riverside Park. Small ceremony, reception in the pavilion after." "Sarah, are you sure? Does Emma really?" "She asked for you, specifically. She's not ready to call you Mom, might never be ready for that. But she's willing to let you be present for this moment." Sarah pauses. "Don't make her regret it." "I won't, I promise." "Don't promise. Just show up." Saturday arrives with perfect weather. Golden September sunshine. Aspens turning yellow on the mountains. The river running clear and cool through the park. Chairs are arranged in a semicircle, white flowers woven through an arch where Emma and David will stand. Rebecca arrives early, wearing a simple dress, her hair pulled back. She takes a seat in the last row, far from family, present but not intrusive. Sarah watches her from across the aisle, sees her sister's hands gripping the chair, knuckles white with tension. The ceremony is brief and beautiful. Emma walks down the aisle with Sarah at her side. Sarah who raised her. Sarah who was there for every moment. Sarah who earned the right to give her away. Dorothy sits in the front row, dabbing her eyes. David's family fills the other side, beaming with joy. Emma looks radiant in a simple white dress, wildflowers in her hair. When she and David exchange vows, their voices are steady, their commitment clear. They've chosen each other, and they're saying so in front of everyone who matters. During the reception, Emma makes her rounds, greeting guests, accepting congratulations. She moves closer and closer to the back of the pavilion, where Rebecca stands alone, holding a glass of wine she hasn't touched. They look at each other, mother and daughter, strangers and family, connected by blood and separated by choice. "Thank you for the book," Emma says finally. "It's beautiful." "Thank you for letting me make it." Rebecca's voice is soft. "And for letting me be here today." "I'm not promising anything," Emma says. "I'm not promising we'll have a relationship, or that I'll ever call you Mom, or that I'll forgive what you did." "I know. But I'm also not promising we won't. I'm leaving it open. A possibility instead of a closed door." Emma takes a breath. "I'm getting married. Eventually, David and I want kids. And maybe, I'll want my children to know where they came from, all of where they came from, including the parts that are complicated." "I'd like that," Rebecca says. "If you decide you want that, I'd really like that." They don't hug. They don't cry. They don't have a dramatic reconciliation moment that solves everything. They simply stand together. Two women navigating the complicated territory of family, making peace with the fact that sometimes love looks different than we expected. Sarah watches from across the pavilion, standing next to Dorothy. Her mother's hand finds hers, squeezes gently. "We did okay," Dorothy says quietly. "All of us, in our broken, imperfect ways." "Did we?" Emma's happy. Rebecca's alive and whole. "You got to be a mother." Dorothy's voice cracks slightly. "None of it happened the way it should have, but we survived it. That counts for something." As the sun sets over the mountains, turning the aspens gold and the sky pink, the reception continues. Rebecca dances with Dorothy, an awkward, emotional dance where both women cry and hold each other and maybe begin to forgive the choices they've made. Sarah dances with Emma, who whispers, "Thank you," over and over into her aunt's ear. And later, much later, after most guests have left and the cleanup has begun, Emma approaches Rebecca one more time. "I'm going on my honeymoon," Emma says. 2 weeks in Costa Rica. When we get back," she hesitates, "maybe we could have dinner. Just the two of us. And talk." "I'd like that," Rebecca says, hope breaking through her careful control. "I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. I still don't understand how you could leave me." Emma's voice is firm. "But I'm willing to try to understand. That's all I can offer right now. That's more than I deserve." "Yes," Emma agrees. "It is. Don't waste it." As Rebecca drives away that night, heading back to her rented room to pack for her return to whatever community she's currently calling home, she carries something she hasn't had in 15 years. The possibility of reconciliation. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever, but possibility. A door left cracked open instead of slammed shut. Sometimes that's enough. Spring returns to Ridgewood the following year, bringing with it the same golden light that once illuminated a locket found in a tunnel. Sarah stands at the library entrance, replacing the old missing person flyer with a new poster. This one advertising a community garden project, Rebecca's idea, to be built on a vacant lot near the elementary school. Rebecca didn't move back to Ridgewood. The town still suffocates her. The expectations still press too close. But she visits now, regularly, openly, no more hiding. She stays with Sarah during these visits, sleeps in the guest room, helps at the library, teaches bookbinding workshops at the community center, and once a month, she has dinner with Emma. The dinners are careful, controlled conversations where both women navigate around the deepest hurts, building trust slowly. Emma talks about her work, her marriage, her plans. Rebecca talks about the communities she's been part of, the skills she's teaching, the gardens she's helped grow. They're learning each other as adults, without the weight of mother-daughter expectations, building something new from the broken pieces of what was. It's not what anyone imagined family would look like, but it's real, and it's theirs. Sarah's own life has changed too. The investigation, the confrontations, the revelations, they've all forced her to examine her own choices. She realizes she's spent 30 years being responsible, being needed, being the one who holds everything together. And she's tired. At 53, she starts taking watercolor classes. She joins a book club. She goes on a date with Michael Torres, the new history teacher at the high school, and lets herself imagine a future that includes more than duty and obligation. Dorothy, at 84, surprises everyone by announcing she's selling the family store. "It's time," she says simply. "Past time. Let someone else carry that burden." She uses the money to travel. Cruises to Alaska, tours of Europe, all the places she never went because staying was what Mitchell women did. She sends postcards from exotic locations, her handwriting growing shakier but her joy evident in every word. The tunnel has been officially sealed now, properly this time, the entrance cemented over. But before it was closed, Sarah and Rebecca visited together one last time. They stood in the alcove where Rebecca lived for 3 years, where she plotted her escape, where she left pieces of herself behind. "Do you regret it?" Sarah asked. "Any of it?" Rebecca considered carefully. "I regret the pain it caused. I regret not finding a better way, not being brave enough to tell the truth. But do I regret leaving?" She shook her head. "No. I would have died here, Sarah. Maybe not physically, but everything that made me who I am would have been slowly crushed. I couldn't stay. And now? Now I'm learning that staying and visiting aren't the same thing. I can come back without being trapped. I can be part of your lives without disappearing into the role everyone wanted me to play." Rebecca smiled. "It only took me 20 years to figure that out." In June, Emma announces she's pregnant. The news sends shockwaves through everyone, raising questions no one quite knows how to ask. Will Rebecca want to be involved? Should she be? What does it mean to be a grandmother to a child when you were barely a mother to your own? They navigate it carefully, with therapists and honest conversations and clearly established boundaries. Rebecca will be Aunt Beck to Emma's children. Present, but not parental. Available, but not intrusive. Emma makes it clear. Sarah is grandma, the one who showed up, the one who stayed. Rebecca is something else. Family, yes, but family redefined. The baby arrives in February. A girl named Iris Dorothy, carrying the names of both grandmothers into a new generation. Sarah is there for the birth, holds her granddaughter first after the parents, weeps with joy at this new life, this new beginning. Rebecca visits a week later, bearing a handmade gift, a baby book, bound with the same care as the wedding guest book, pages ready to be filled with photographs and memories and milestones. She holds Iris carefully, this tiny person who carries her blood, but not her burden. "I won't mess this up," Rebecca whispers to the sleeping infant. "I won't be what I couldn't be before, but I'll be here in my way. I promise." Emma watches from the bed, exhausted but content. "That's all I ask. Just be here, consistently, no disappearing." "No disappearing," Rebecca agrees. Later, Sarah and Rebecca sit on the porch of Sarah's house, watching the aspens sway in the wind. They've been through fire together, these sisters. Loss and betrayal and revelation and tentative rebuilding. "I found something," Sarah says, pulling out the locket. She's kept it all this time. The silver chain that started everything. "I want you to have it back." Rebecca takes it, opens it, reads the inscription she wrote herself 15 years ago. "Forever yours, 2003. "I meant it when I wrote that," Rebecca says. "I meant that I belonged to myself, that I was claiming my own life. But I think I understand it differently now." "How?" "Forever yours doesn't mean alone. It means we carry each other always, even when we're apart. You're in me, Sarah. You always have been. Even when I was running with you in my heart." Rebecca's voice breaks. "I just didn't know how to stay and still be myself." You're learning now. Yeah, I'm learning. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of pine and possibility. In the house behind them, Dorothy is teaching Emma's husband David how to make her famous apple pie, their laughter drifting through open windows. Emma and baby Iris nap upstairs, 3 generations under one roof, connected by blood and choice and the complicated love that survives despite everything. Rebecca stands, walks to the garden, places the locket in the earth beneath a newly planted aspen sapling. A memorial, she explains. Not to who I was, but to who I couldn't be, and to the life I had to leave to become who I am. Sarah joins her, and together they cover the locket with soil, plant it like a seed that's already bloomed. The story doesn't have a neat ending because life doesn't have neat endings. Emma and Rebecca will have good days and bad days, closeness and distance, progress and setbacks. Dorothy will eventually pass, taking her secrets and her regrets and her hard-won wisdom with her. Sarah will continue being the anchor, the steady one, though she's learning to sometimes let herself drift. But on this spring day, as the aspens turn gold and the river runs clear, and a new generation begins her journey, they're all exactly where they need to be. Together, but separate. Connected, but independent. Forever each other's, but finally, their own. The locket buried beneath the aspen tree carries its inscription into the earth. Forever yours, 2003. A promise kept. A life reclaimed. A family redefined. Sometimes freedom costs everything. Sometimes it's worth the price. And sometimes, the people we leave behind find their own freedom in the space we create by going. If this story left you as impacted as it did me, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and comment your opinion below. Each comment is like a new piece that can help unravel other mysteries like this one.